And my older sister and I went to the square where the Jews were being herded together. And we walked. There were quite a few townspeople who wanted to see what was going on. And we marched with them to the train station where they were put on cattle cars, and I watched my little friends in the cattle cars. Now, any one of them could have yelled out, you know, these two are also Jewish. But nobody said a word. We just looked at each other. And then the soldiers closed the doors, and, you know, the doors went like that.
And you said, how did you escape that? You were posing as...
At that point, we already had our first baptismal papers that were sent to us from Switzerland.
Nobody gave you up?
That was... Nobody. In fact, the night before this happened, my father called a meeting. We had no money. We were staying in an attic where the rats were bigger than the cats that you might have known. That's how big the rats, at least to me, they were bigger than cats. And we stayed just on a plank of wood. The attic was not finished anywhere. And my father called a meeting. I believe there may have been as many as 40 heads of Jewish families, and he was begging them to run into the mountains, into the woods. Whatever you have to do, run today, because tomorrow you will be taken. And one of those men said, "You are scaring us, please stop it." And my father pulled out of his pocket a pencil that's not like a regular pencil, but it's oval. I think it's called a carpenter's pencil.
Yeah.
So it doesn't roll off, right? And he pulled out this pencil and he says, "How can you believe that you are going to be sent to Poland to build a homeland if you are not allowed to bring a pencil?" And then he pulled out a little penknife and he showed it to him. And he said, "How can you believe that you are going to be shipped to Poland to build a homeland if you are not allowed to bring a penknife?" And some other man said, "Joseph, you have to stop it because you are frightening us so badly that we will have to report you to the police. You have to cut it out."
Oh no. He was definitely what you must have called an intellectual. He had it all figured out.
Well, he had it figured out because he had such good relationships.
Because why?
My father had such good relationships, trusting relationships with people, with Christians, with Catholics, who knew what was going on. I mean, that train went to Auschwitz. The ones that we saw move out of our little town.
Man, your father what was his name? Joseph what?
Joseph Englander.
Say it again?
Englander.
Englander.
Yeah.
Well, he was courageous, wasn't he? To keep going, the stamina to keep going.
The reason why we got stuck in Poland at first was because my mother would not leave her whole family. My mother had like 10 brothers and sisters. Sorry, 9 brothers and sisters. And she would not leave until my father saved them all. That was a big task to put on my father's shoulders. But my mother refused to leave her family. And her oldest brother...
Your mother refused?
My mother refused to leave, and she begged my father, "Let's stay here and you try to get all of them out of here." He actually got one little boy, one of my cousins, who was even younger than I was. He was truly a little, he was like 3 years old at the time. And he sent one of those mountain people to get him out of, they were not in a concentration camp yet, they were in a ghetto, and this guy took him out of the ghetto through a sewer line. They gave him something to drink that put the kid to sleep, put him in a rucksack, what do you call it?
Backpack.
Backpack. And saved his life.
Now, who did that?
Well, my father was the one who organized it.
Organizer?
Organized it. He actually got somebody to go and the guy did it. And it was this man's wife who was the one who brought us across the stream from Poland to Slovakia. Yeah, my father was a very special human being.
He must have been.
No question about it.
So where did he end up settling? Did he survive all this?
New York, he survived all that. We stayed in, then it became Czechoslovakia right after the war. And and of course the Russians never left. So the people who liberated us became our oppressors. So we left. At that point, he had picked us up from the convent in Nitra, and we lived in.
Is that the name of that town again?
He and our mom came to get us out of the convent in Nitra.
Nitra?
Nitra. That was the name of the city. Our convent was hit by, I think, 32 bombs, of which 30 exploded. My older sister got the last strikes because she got hit in the head.
Oh.
I was wounded in my shoulder and in my back. My younger sister wasn't wounded at all. So, I mean, you cannot imagine what was going on. We were bombed. It was incredible, beyond belief we were bombed. And that was on Good Friday.
Oh no!
Good Friday. So, and our mom and dad, when they finally made their way, and they traveled with the Russian front. As the Russian front was going from the east to the west, they were right behind the soldiers, making their way so that they could get to us. Well, they eventually got to us, and they sat down in the rubble of the convent because it was devastated, bombed out, and they just sat there crying. And one of the priests was coming over to the convent, and so he sees these two people crying. He goes over to them, and they tell him how they have these 3 little girls, and they are afraid to go on because who could have survived this kind of destruction? And he says, your daughters survived. They are here. I know them. Come with me. And that's how we met our parents. So eventually we made our way from Bratislava to Prague, from Prague to Switzerland to meet his sister, right, at her family. And we met them. But my mother's oldest brother, her oldest brother, was his wife and their 2 kids were among the first Jews who were gassed on trains. Do you know anything about that?
On trains?
Of course, the Germans had
the camps?
The gas chambers. They were already gassing the Jews by locking them up in trains and putting whatever gas they were using into the train compartments and killing them like that. And he was among the very first to go like that. It's incredible.
So, at first when you were a little girl and all this started happening, you had no idea. As time went on, did you realize that
my father was
you were being persecuted?
Absolutely. My father told us everything, but he told me something that really helped me to survive and keep my sanity. And what he said to me is, I don't understand why this is happening to me. To us. I want you to know that your mom and dad did nothing wrong to deserve this. Your grandpas parents, your grandmas did nothing wrong to deserve it.